This week on Reedsy Live, let's get published. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Martin, and welcome to Reedsy Live, the ongoing series of webinars where we bring on professionals from the world of publishing to show you how to write and publish better books. And today, we're focusing on the second part of that equation, as our guest will talk to us about the practicalities of getting published, what it's like to get a book deal and publish your very first book. To everyone watching at home, thank you very much for signing up. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel each week. We've got great new content, and you'll be the first one to know whenever we put out a webinar such as this. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and without further ado, let me bring on my guest. My guest, of course, is a Reedsy developmental editor and a New York Times bestselling author of 13 novels, including Pictures of You, Is This Tomorrow, and With or Without You. Her latest novel, Days of Wonder, is now available at all good bookstores and a few bad ones too. Please welcome Caroline Leavitt. Caroline, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you all for coming.
Very pleased to see you. We have you on at least once a year. We try so as not to tax you too much, but always look forward to these great insights.
Me
you
too.
are still based in New York?
New York, yeah?
Is it a hot New York summer yet?
Yes, it's disgusting. It's totally disgusting. It's very humid and hot and also rainy now and again, but hopefully it'll be fall soon.
Okay, okay. Yeah, we just have to get over all of July and all of August, and then we can look forward to the autumn seasons. Great. Well, we have a lot of people joining us from around the world. As I mentioned, if you can give us a like, that helps us really much. Helps us a lot to get this thing seen by more people, so do help us out. Someone says the volume is too low. You can't hear the speakers. Ken, I'm having a look at our levels here, and I think you may need to turn your computer up, unless everyone else on the comments disagrees. Anyway, Caroline, before we get started, I understand you have a brand new novel out.
I do, and I just happen to have a cover of it here.
Is it this cover?
Yes, it is. It actually is. This is my book, Days of Wonder. It was a CBS TV book club pick, a national book club pick. It's been reviewed just about everywhere, from the New York Times to the Los Angeles Times. It was based on a story of, we're going to be talking about the kinds of books you should write, what haunts you. This haunted me. It was a friend of mine who admitted to me after a few years of knowing her that she had committed a murder when she was 15, and she had served time in prison for it. She did do it, and when she got out of prison, she remade her life, and that just fascinated me. So I took that as my starting point, and I wrote the book on it, and there you go, write what haunts you.
Oh wow, fantastic. That's an incredible concept. For it to come,
yeah.
Is it something you found out relatively recently?
Well, the book took me 5 years to write, and I found it out 5 years ago over dinner. And I took her story and I changed it to make it about two New York City kids, because I didn't want her. I promised her I would never reveal her name, and I never will, for her privacy, because when people find out, a lot of people, she's lost jobs, she's lost relationships, she's lost friends, and it's too bad, because she's this phenomenal person and she really worked hard to turn herself into a good person.
Wonderful. Well, I believe it is available in the US. I'm not sure. Do you know if it's available elsewhere, like in the UK?
I don't know. I think it is.
Oh, while you do your talk, I'll check online and.
Okay, great.
Cool. Well, I'll be behind the curtains answering some questions if anyone has any in the comments. There will be a Q&A at the end, so feel free to ask questions now, but I'll save them until then.
Okay, so hi everybody. So I really wanted to give a talk today about what it's really like to be a writer and navigate the stormy road to publication. I'm going to talk to you about writing the book that haunts you, because you need a really good product to get published today, query letters, agents, handling rejection, figuring out what publishing process is best for you, and what happens after the book deal. I'll tell you everything I know. So first of all, I'm going to do this briefly. Writing the book. You don't get a lot of shots to reach an editor or an agent, so you want to write the best book you can. Please, please don't write to the market. If every single book out there that's on the bestseller list or seems hot is about like whaling, don't write about whaling, because it takes a year minimum for a book to come out unless you're self-publishing. And by that time, that topic of whaling might not be there. And the market just changes and changes. What you should do is write the book that you yourself want to read. Write the book that really, really haunts you. I wrote Days of Wonder, as I said, because it was a friend of mine who had admitted that she had committed a murder when she was 15. And she did do it, and she changed her life. That idea just obsessed me, and I had to write about it. I didn't think about the market at all. And if I had, I might have been told this is too dark a subject, or people don't want to read about murderers. Just listen to what's in your gut. Different writers write their books differently. Should you take a class? Yeah. Should you go to a writer's conference? That's good. Does going to college to get a master's in fine arts help you? Not always. So start with the idea. One thing that I always tell writers when they're writing a book, which is a big ordeal, is that you need a premise, which is a few lines to tell who the main character is, why they have to act right now, and what is at stake. The reason why you need it is because when you're approaching agents or editors, or even when you're just telling friends about your book, you have to say something that's going to make them think, oh my God, I want to read that. What is going to happen next? So, think about, I think everybody's probably all seen or heard of the movie Jaws. Think about the premise of that. This is a story about a sheriff who's struggling in a beach town. He has to have a good summer. He has to bring in money. If he doesn't, he could lose his job. And then he discovers a great white shark is in the area. Okay, so he has two choices. He can close the beaches, which will ruin the economy of the beach town and possibly cost him his job, but no one will get eaten by the shark. Or he can keep the beaches open, and then people will be eaten by the shark, but the town will be okay. But you want that premise. So some writers will jump in and just write their book, but I feel like every story, like every human, has to have a structure, a skeleton. If you've already written your book and you're just wondering what to do next, you still want to go back and make sure the skeleton is there. So my skeleton is basically what I call the wants and needs list. Make sure that your novel has a character who wants something desperately with great stakes attached. In Days of Wonder, it's this girl that was sent to prison when she was 15, who gets out when she's 22. And there's three things she wants with great stakes. She doesn't remember what happened the night of an attempted murder that she supposedly did. Great stakes. If she needs to find out, am I guilty? Am I not guilty? She also wants to find a child that she gave birth to in prison. Where is the child? Can she see it? What's going to happen? These are all things that will propel your novel. So let's talk about, once you have a draft, what do you want to do with that draft? You can't just send in a messy draft to an agent or to an editor or even to self-publishing. It's got to be perfect, as perfect as you can get. I'm a developmental editor at Reedsy, and I want to tell you some of the issues that I see crop up over and over again. The first thing is starting in the right place. A lot of manuscripts I see start with a description. That doesn't work because we don't know who the character is. We don't really care if a house is beautiful or if it's on a grassy lawn or something like that. We want to know who is the character and what do they want. Start in the middle. Think of yourself jumping into what is called the inciting action. What is the problem? For Jaws, it would be, and it was actually, a young woman is in the beach at night swimming alone when a shark pulls her down and she's eaten. That starts the whole story. Make sure that your first chapter asks a certain question. In Jaws, it would be, will this town survive? The last chapter is the answer to that question. In Jaws, the answer is yes, it will, because the shark is gone. My novel Days of Wonder, the question in the first chapter, which was this 22-year-old getting out of prison, was, can I rebuild my life? Will other people ever forgive me? And at the end of the book, we find out that answer. One other thing I see with Reedsy manuscripts, line edit, line edit. Line editing is what you do with the language. Look for unnecessary words in your manuscript. For example, if you write, it was a hot sunny day blistering with heat, I bet you can guess what needs to go, right? All you have to say is the day was hot. Hot is the same word as sunny. Blistering with heat is the same as hot and sunny. You want to sort of distill everything to its most powerful. You can just say the day was blistering. I know there's a lot of talk about show not tell. Mostly that applies to adjectives and adverbs. Go through your manuscript. Every time you see an adjective, see if you can replace it with an action. Instead of saying, Joe was really tall. Tall is an adjective. You could say, Joe was the only one who couldn't get into the room. He had to duck to get into the doorway. We know because he ducked that he's very tall. Let's talk about unnecessary adverbs. Well, what if you say, I love you, he said lovingly. You don't need lovingly because we know from the dialogue that he loves that person. But what if he said something like, I love you, he said furiously? Then that's an interesting adverb because we don't expect that furiousness. So you have a draft. What do you do before you send it out or try to find an agent? You need somebody else to read it. Some people call those beta readers. Some people call it developmental editors. Beta readers are other readers that are reading it to see what happens. A beta reader shouldn't be a friend of yours, shouldn't be somebody who loves you, because they will not give you the criticism you need. If you can get a published author to do it, that's great. You might have to pay them. You might want to trade pages. You can go to a writing group. That's really good too. A novel should be anywhere from, say, the sweet spot is like 60,000 to 95,000 words tops. Anything over 100,000 is too long because it will cost publishers too much, and it will cost people wanting to buy the book. It'll cost too much for them to buy it. So should you hire a developmental editor? Yes. I've published 13 books and I'm a New York Times bestseller. I have 2 different developmental editors. Why it's so important is because when you're writing your book, it's like you can't see the forest for the trees. You're not going to pick up on things. You need a set of fresh eyes. What developmental editors can do is tell you, this is too slow, and they'll show you how to speed it up. Or they'll say this character isn't developed enough. They'll show you how to develop the characters. As I said, I've written 13 books and I'm still learning from my developmental editors. So yay, you have a novel, you've gone through the editing process. Now you have to figure out, what do you want to do with your book? Do you need an agent? Do you want an agent? So let's talk about the form that publication can take, okay? Do you want to self-publish? Do you want a Big 5 publisher? Self-publishing doesn't require an agent, which some people think is a good thing, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of that. But let's talk about what you think and what you want. Self-publishing. I usually don't recommend self-publishing unless you are writing a bodice ripper or a romance. Sci-fi does really well in self-publishing. Self-help does really well. Literary fiction doesn't do very well in self-publishing. You'll be lucky if you sell 300 copies. The amount of copies you want to look for to sell is 5,000 is considered okay, 10,000 is better, 50,000 is phenomenal. That would be great. Chances are you won't do that in self-publishing unless you're writing a certain type of books. All you have to do is look on TikTok to see thousands of successful self-published authors. But again, they're authors of a particular kind of book. So the pros of self-publishing are, you have control. You can decide how it gets published. You decide on the cover. You decide on what it looks like. Those are all pros. You get more money back. That's also a pro. But let's talk about the cons. Self-publishing has no gatekeepers. That means that there are hundreds and thousands of other self-published books you're competing with, and some of them probably should not be published. They're just not ready to be published, or they might be screamed. Some of them are full of hate. There's no gatekeeper, so anything can get published. The second thing is that when you're self-published, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get events. Bookstores don't want to host you because they don't get a cut. You won't get reviews unless you pay for them. And even then, the only reviews you'll get will be at Kirkus, which is pre-publication review, and Publishers Weekly, and a few places for that. So I actually know only one person who did really well self-publishing, who wasn't writing sci-fi or romance or self-help, which is Lisa Genova, who wrote Still Alice, which is about a woman with Alzheimer's. Beautifully written book, which helped. She self-published it, got it on Amazon, got a zillion reviews. Doubleday took note, one of the big 5 publishers, published it, and it became a movie. Okay, you don't need an agent to self-publish, but think carefully before you do that. I always tell people it's better to aim high, and then you can always go down. Okay, so let's talk about the big publishers. In the United States, there are big 5, they call it. It's Penguin Random House, Hachette, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Macmillan. These publishers also have tons of imprints you can try, like Little Brown and more. But again, let's look at the pros and cons. You do need an agent to get into these places. You absolutely need an agent. You get name recognition. These publications will send out your book in an advanced reader's copy or a galley, which comes out about 6 to 8 months before the actual book. That goes to reviewers, it goes to bookstores, it goes to influencers. People see those names of the big 5, and they know that those books have gone through gatekeepers, and they also know that those books are totally worth attention. Other pros, big advances. Okay, you can get up to $200,000 in advance. And advance is money that they give you before the book is published. You are supposed to sell enough books so you earn back the advance. It's a complicated system that I really can't explain, but they get, in any sale of a book, the publisher might get 80% of whatever money comes. You might get 10%. Once you earn enough money to earn back that $200,000 advance, you get royalties, which is the amount of money on every book sold. And that's great. But the problem with that is that here's the con. I know a lot of people who sold books to Random House for $200,000. Okay, they only sold, I don't know, like 2,000 books, which meant that when their royalty statement comes out, it shows that they haven't earned back a lot of money. You don't have to pay it back, but what happens is that Random House will never buy your next book. Possibly another publisher will not buy your next book because they think, look at all this money you lost. We don't want that. It's not a good thing to do. Okay, so what about smaller publishers? Smaller publishers, you still need an agent, but smaller publishers are very prestigious. Those are the pros. They do a beautiful job. My publisher, Algonquin, in the United States, has been wonderful. They never stop promoting. Their editors are fantastic. They don't give huge advances, but they do so much publicity for you, and that is important. And we'll talk about that too today. Unfortunately, my publisher has just been bought by one of the big fives, Hachette. So things are about to change there. There is something new called a hybrid press. It's kind of a step up from self-publishing. What it means is that you do have to pay them money, just like you have to pay money to be self-published, which can be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 of your own money. But they do work for you. They will do publicity. So what you should do is go to a bookstore, go look online, look at all three things. Look at the books that are from big publishers, look at the books that are self-published, look at the covers, see how they've done, see what you think of each. So the agent search. Do you need an agent? Why do you need an agent? Because agents know the business. I've had agents take a contract that I was thrilled with an amount of advance I was thrilled with, and my agent said, no, we want more. My agent also was the one who put in clauses. If I got on the New York Times bestseller list, I would get an extra $10,000. If I got a movie deal, that's another more money. Plus, with the way publishing is now, agents are your one steadfast thing. Editors move around a great deal, and the agent is your one steadfast person. So how do you find an agent? Well, there's a bunch of places. You can go to agentquery.com. They have a search engine, and you just put in what your kind of book is. Is it literary fiction? Is it commercial fiction? There's no real difference between those now in publishing, so just put in whatever you think. Is it memoir? You can go to Poets and Writers. It's Poets, Writers. They also have a search engine. Every year they do a special issue on agents and what to expect. Go to a bookstore. This is my secret weapon. Go to a bookstore, pull out the books you love, and look at the acknowledgement pages. On the back of the acknowledgement pages, they tell you if they love their agent, they will thank their agent profusely. Google agents on Twitter. Once you have a list, you can get a feel for who they are. Okay, so you have a list of 60 agents because you're going to query them all at once. You have to Google every single agent because they all want something different. Most agents do want the query letter, which is a letter telling who you are, what your book is about, why you want this agent. You want to check out who are these agents' other clients. If you don't recognize any of the other clients, you don't want to go with them. Does the agent want you to pay for anything? If they do, you don't want to go with them. What you want to do is find something personal to say about the agent in your query letter. Even if it's something like, I just recently read an interview with you and I loved when you said blah, 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 and I think you'd be a great agent for me. There are things you can do to improve your chances of getting an agent. Publish short stories. Is there any part of your any part of your novel that would work as an excerpt or a short story somewhere? Again, Poets and Writers has a whole listing of where you can send those stuff. Publish personal essays. Doesn't have to be about the books. There are hundreds of great places to do this. The Millions, Refinery 29, Salon, the New York Times. Get on social media. You do not have to do this for more than, I'm only on it like 10 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night. Make sure that you have a profile that says author. You can say what kind of author you are, sci-fi writer, historical novelist, because what you're going to do is you're going to follow every single agent you have on your list. When you do that, they're going to see the follow and they're going to say, well, who is this? And they're going to go to your profile and see that you're a novelist, and then they will follow you back. Get a website, or at least think of one. Okay, so let's talk about the query letter. It's totally formulaic. First paragraph is about the agent. It's, why do you want this agent? Dear Ellen Levine, recently I saw that you were acknowledged in this book I read. I loved the book. I loved what your writer said about you. I'd like you to be my agent. Dear Ellen Levine, recently I read an interview with you and I saw that you said writers are wonderful and I like to build their careers. I would like that too. That stays the same. That is going to be different for all your agents. Second paragraph stays the same. That's your pitch. Like if you had written Jaws, you would say, my book, Jaws, is about a struggling sheriff of a beach town who must decide whether to keep the beaches open and save the town, even though there's a great white rampaging shark, or whether he should close the beaches and lose his job. This is the paragraph. I see some of you have mentioned comp titles. This is the paragraph where you do want to mention comp titles. Why do you need comp titles? Because when agents and editors go to bookstores, the bookstores want to know, what is this book like? If a bookstore does fabulous selling scary books, they're going to love it if your comp title is Stephen King. If the bookstore only sells romance novels, they're going to see the comp of Stephen King and they're going to think, oh, we probably won't buy that. Same thing with reviewers. Same thing with anything like that. You want to have a comp. And again, aim high. Why not? You might as well. A lot of times people say, they will name two different comps. They will say, my book is like, it's like as if Stephen King, horror, had married, a romance writer. That means it's got a wide audience. The third paragraph is always, why me? That's if you're writing about sharks. If you studied sharks, that goes in there. If you've published something before, that goes there too. If you haven't, then you don't have to worry about it at all. The last is your thank you. Thank you so much. I look forward to your reply. And then you wait. How long do you have to wait? It depends. Some agents will respond to you immediately. Some will take 3 months. If they take 3 months, which is a really, really long time, and you're probably ready to take Valium, you're allowed to email them and say, I just wanted to double check on the status of my manuscript. There are 3 kinds of responses you'll get from agents. The first response is a form letter. It's going to say, this tough publishing climate didn't relate to the characters. That means they didn't even read it. That probably meant that they gave it to the young assistant or they just didn't have the time. If you get a letter that seems like a rejection, but it mentions something specific about your novel, then it's not really a rejection. Like they might say, oh, I've read your novel, Jaws, loved it until I got to the end, and then I was hoping, they'll say something like, I was hoping to get the point of view of the shark. That's when you email the agent back and say, thank you so much for the time you spent on my manuscript. I would love to do this. And I was thinking I'm actually going to rewrite it and put in the point of view of the shark. Will you look at this again? They almost always say yes. Then comes the one you want, which they say, give us a call. Okay. Just as in publishers, you want to think about what kind of an agent you want. There are different kinds. My first agent was a shark. She sold every single book I wrote, but she wasn't very friendly. I was always afraid to call her. I would pretend that I was smoking just to calm myself down, even though I don't smoke. I decided I wanted a new agent, and my agent now is really, really warm and welcoming, and she sells a lot of my books, and she's just great. So you have a book deal. Now what? As I said, it takes a year or so to get a book out. Self-publishing is much less. But even with self-publishing, you're going to want to talk about, do you need a publicist, which is what we're going to do pros and cons on. If you go through a traditional publisher, um, your editor will usually want revisions. Even if you've gone through a developmental editor, trust me, you want this. It makes a better, richer book. Not only does the editor go through revisions, but the next stage is a copy editor. What the copy editor does is line editing, which we talked about, and the copy editor also fact checks things. Like if you have someone suddenly pregnant on page 3, and then in the next page, 2 days later, she has a full-blown baby, you want to fix that up. Magazines, this is for any kind of book, magazines and reviewers need to be contacted 6 months before the book is out. Newspapers can wait like 4 months. Radio needs to be booked right away. Bookstores are often booked for events 8 months ahead of time. The publisher, if you're self-publishing, you get to choose your cover. But this is actually a pro, because traditional publishers have a marketing department and a publicity department, and they know what sells. They'll give you 3 different choices of covers. If you don't like them, you can suggest what you would like to see, and they'll give you mock-ups. Titles are also marketing decisions. You want to have a great title. And I will tell you, 90% of the time at Reedsy, I see the wrong titles. And I always work with writers to get a title that's evocative and great. Blurbs. I don't know if self-published books have blurbs, but blurbs are like these things. Trying to get it to show. These things on the back of the book, they're like things from authors that say, like, I love this book, this is actually fabulous. It's part of like what they call comp stuff. You try to get blurbs from authors who are like you. I mean, I have blurbs from Ann Napolitano, who is a Today Show author. I have Adriana Trigiani. I have big names, because a lot of times that's what readers look at, and they think, well, if this author blurbed her, then maybe I'll like her book. So you might want to get blurbs. Do you need a publicist? Yeah, you do. It used to be that in the big publishers, their publicity and marketing department would handle everything. It's not that way anymore. I used to get 42 city tours paid for by my publisher, Algonquin. They did everything for me. Now, publishing is different. After COVID, they told me, we're not touring our authors anymore. You can only go to places which will pay for you. And lucky for me, there are book conferences that will pay for you. There are places that will give you room, board, and give you money to boot. So it's hard. Publicists and marketing people in publishing now are really, really busy. They don't have the time that it takes to go to places and suggest your book for review, network, do whatever needs to be done. So they do it, but not so much. If you're self-published, that's really a problem, unless you know a lot of people in publishing. You're not going to get reviews. You're not going to get the word of mouth excitement. People might not know who you are. Okay. The pros of a publicist is they can get you phenomenal things. I hired a publicist for Days of Wonder, and I got on CBS TV. I became one of their book club picks. I got reviewed everywhere, and it was worth every single penny for me. Okay, the cons are publicists are expensive, or they can be expensive. I have a friend who got a top publicist. She paid $25,000 for a campaign, which is about 4 months worth of work. The publicist was not able to get her anything except 1 review. She still had to pay that money. There were a lot of publicists who they're not good. That's why if you want to have a publicist, you have to research them. Go to their websites, see what books they've worked on. If you don't know the books, then you don't want to use them. Getting a publicist for a self-published book is more difficult. Can you do it all yourself? You can, but I'm telling you, it's a full-time job. Okay, I want to talk to you all about rejection because that is part and parcel of publishing. Will you get rejected? All the time, all the time. Do you let it hurt you? No, don't. A rejection is just one person's opinion. One person's opinion. I heard Anna Quinlan speak, and she doesn't even read her reviews. Um, you cannot take no for an answer. I always tell the story that my ninth novel was rejected on contract by my then publisher because they hated the book. They just hated the book. I figured that my career was over. And then Algonquin picked it up and they turned it into a New York Times bestseller its first week out, went into 6 printings, and the same publisher who rejected it asked if I wanted to come back to them. Of course, I did not. But you have to believe in yourself, believe in your writing. You know, there are so many stories of books that were rejected 60 times. Then the 61st time, they found a publisher. Okay, so what else helps? I have one more thing to talk about, and then I'm going to take all your great questions. Community, the writers' community. The writers' community has saved me. I've had writers help me. I've had writers, get me to their favorite bookstore or whatever. How do you build community? Here's one way. Every month, write a lovely handwritten letter or a lovely email to a writer you admire. Again, aim high. Do not ask for anything. Simply tell the writer how much their work has meant to you. They will respond. I guarantee they will respond. That's how you build community. Show up at people's readings. Every writer, no matter how famous they are, worries about going to a reading and having nobody show up. Help other writers. How do you do that? Praise their work on social media and tag them so they see you've praised them. Engage. No one will understand what you're going through except for other writers. The important thing to remember is that your writing career will not look like anybody else's. And second of all, never, ever, ever give up. So I want to take questions now because I've seen so many great questions. So let's do that now because there's a lot of them. Okay.
Fantastic. We've got a question here from, let me bring this up, Bryony Blakely, who says, when you start looking for agents and writing query letters, if you're only 85 to 90% done, can you and should you start, or should you be 100% finished with your manuscript?
Great question. Great question. Because you want to have a list of 60 agents, and the reason why I say 60, it's because of those 60, half of them are going to ghost you. They won't even respond. Then maybe 20 will say no, and then some will ask for a partial, some will ask for a full manuscript. You want to start looking for agents right now while you're still finishing your novel, because you want to have all those 60 agents and all those 60 query letters ready to go. So start now. When you want to be 100% finished is when when you've got all your query letters done so that you can send them out. So if an agent says, yes, I want to see a full one, you have your manuscript ready to go. Good question.
You mentioned blurbs. Well, Jen says it's not helping to say get blurbs without explaining how. So,
I'm sorry.
Who goes out and gets Reese Witherspoon to read the book and give you...
That's a great question. Of course it's not helpful with that. Okay, getting blurbs. If you have a traditional publisher, they help you. They send the book out to different authors to get blurbs. They are the ones who will go to Reese Witherspoon or whatever. You can't do that yourself. What you can do is make a list of the authors who you would like to blurb them. Then you will try to look and find their websites. So you can try to find out how to contact them. You can go on social media, try to find out how to contact them. And then you want to write them a lovely note. And the note should just say something like, I've loved your work for so long. I know that you know as a writer how hard it is to get blurbs. I'm hoping I can interest you in perhaps reading and blurbing my novel. Would you consider it? They will either say yes, or they will say no, or they will ignore you. But you just cast a wide net and try and try and try your best. But with self publishing, I don't know how you get blurbs unless you know writers. And the way to know writers, again, is to join into the community, go to a writer's book reading. It never helps to ask. And the reason why I love email is because you can ask for a blurb from any writer, and if they don't want to respond, then they won't, and you don't have to face rejection. You don't have to, but cast a wide net.
Yeah, as a self-published author, like sometimes it's like, who is the most famous person I know? Is there someone I know who maybe not famous, but they're sort of known within a certain field that
Yes,
readers of this book
yes,
might know? And it sort of
that's a
helps
great idea.
if you go out and help them first without sort of seemingly any agenda. If they owe you one for something, it can sort of help.
Yeah, yep, yep, yep. Yeah, you can just cast away, and that's why the writers community. You never know who knows somebody else, and they can speak to them, but you have to try.
We've got a question here from Branislav. Being someone who writes in English and is not living in the USA or UK, it seems impossible to find an agent. Is there a list of agents willing to work with foreign authors? Yeah, I believe, like, if it's in
Yeah,
English and you're looking to sell to the US, they're looking for anyone. And if you're not from the US or UK, you might actually have a good story that they can sell.
yeah, they don't care. They're looking for a great story. Martin is absolutely right. It doesn't matter. Try all of them. Try all of them.
Let's see. Oh, here's before Caroline is done, I'd like to know about that little guy over her shoulder.
That is so funny. That is hilarious. That is my marionette that I use on TikTok. His name is Paul Jr., and he's got a really foul mouth. And I just keep him here because whenever I do Zooms, it's always interesting to see who notices him and who doesn't. So thank you for noticing. Oh, I see. Hybrid publisher. She Writes. She Writes is a hybrid publisher. Right now, they're just doing female authors. She Writes, the pros for them are their books look fabulous. They look really great. They sell, they get reviews. The cons with She Writes is I've heard from people who sign with them that it becomes very expensive. You have to pay them a lot of money for covers. They want you to hire a publicist, plan on spending at least $10,000 with them. So it's up to you if you want to spend that money or you don't want to spend that money. One thing I will say about publicists is if you're serious about your career, what I did is 2 years ago, I started a special bank account, and every week I threw in $20 or $50 until I built it up. So by the time I was ready to publish, I had enough money to hire a publicist. And you can do that. It does add up, and it's less shocking than all of a sudden realizing, oh my God, I have to come up with $10,000 and I don't have it. But it definitely does help.
I would say, to give my point of view as someone from the
Oh yeah,
self-publishing
please.
trenches here, is that you need to be very careful with hybrid publishers. I think She Writes is good,
Yes.
from what I've heard. The main thing you got to look out for is, do they have transparency of who you'll be working with, who you're going to
Yes.
pay this $10,000 to,
Yes.
and
Yes.
can they place your books in stores? Because if they can't do those things, then they're a vanity press. Most vanity presses these days will call themselves hybrid publishers. They'll, we'll edit it for you, we'll give you a cover, but then you go and see all their covers. It's written, it looks like it's done by some jerk, or who edited it,
Right.
who knows. They won't tell you who it is. They'll market your book, and they'll do that. They'll say, we'll spend $5,000 writing you a press statement, we'll make you a trailer, and then, well, are you going to seed that press release anywhere? Are you going to make sure people see these trailers? So they will charge you for things without necessarily having an impact. So you want to see, are there books in physical stores? Anyone can put it on Amazon. Is it in your Barnes & Noble? Is it in your independent bookstore? Does it get actual reviews? Are people reading it? So be
Right.
very
Right.
careful. Yeah. Because the main thing is that you can spend that $15,000 getting some schmo to edit it, or, not to plug Reedsy, but to plug Reedsy, you can go and find Caroline, who, has an experienced
Yeah.
editor, and, you can find complete transparency and have the people
Right.
do it for you. And then, you'll have to, I think the thing that they prey on is that they'll say, we'll publicize your book for you. No author loves marketing their book, right? And so
Right. No, we
if
hate it.
you tell me you'll take that off your hands, I'll happily pay you that money. But next to no hybrid press will be able to effectively market your book, the way that an author will, and an author will have to put proper time into it. So, yeah, rant over. I've got a question here from. Let's see. It was a good question here. Oh, Alexandra Caldwell says, "What questions are good to ask agents if they offer you representation?"
Great question. Great question. I would ask them, first of all, do they have someone who handles film rights? Or do they work with somebody who does film rights? How do they like to work with their writers? Some agents do not like phone calls. Some agents would prefer only to talk to you, when they have something to tell you. Do they edit? Very important. I always think that it's great if you can get an agent that edits too, because the more help you have, the great. You want to know things like that. If you do, you also should do your homework so you know what authors the agent represents. That way you can get a feel for what kind of list that agent has. If the agent has a lot of romance writers and you're writing a romance, that's great. That's a good agent for you. But if the agent has a lot of romance writers and you write literary fiction, that might not be the best fit for you. You want to talk to the agent to see how are your personalities together. I never thought it was important until I got my agent I have now, where my first agent was very cold and very businesslike, and it made me crazy. So you do want to talk to them to see, how do you communicate? Do you like each other? Do you feel like the agent champions you? You also want to ask an agent, is she interested in building your career? What happens if she takes on your first book and it doesn't sell? Is she going to move on, or is she going to help you with the second book? Those are all things that are important to ask.
Kenneth asks, you recommend sending all query letters out at once. Why not in batches?
Because it's horrible to send out in batches. It's just, that's my personal opinion. You can send out in batches, but it's just so much easier to just get them out all at once. And it's easier to keep track of, like, who said yes, who said no, who didn't. It's just easier to have one Excel sheet so you can track them all at once. But it's not wrong to send out in batches.
Yeah, I've heard the other argument being that if you send it in batches, there's always the chance that if you hear nothing back, maybe something's wrong with the query, you want to revisit that. Or if you do get feedback from one of them going, my dude, this is not what you want to say, or they give you a bit of advice that you can then roll across everything else.
Right.
Cool. I've got... here's a fun question. Andrew asks, I have signed with a literary agent. Well done. Is it true that publishers don't make acquisitions during the summer months?
Well, I hate to say it's constantly true, but you're right. August, they're all on vacation.
Are they all in the
They're
Hamptons?
all on vacation. Yeah, most of them are in the Hamptons. It's better to wait until September. It really is. But again, it's not 100% true. There are always like people who will send stuff off and they will look on it. Another bad time is around Christmas. That shuts down too. It's better not to do Christmas, and it's better not to do the summer.
Yeah, I heard they're like the ideal days for querying as well. Like, because you have to like surf
Yes,
the inbox.
actually there is. Yeah, Monday is bad. Monday, people are getting back to their desks. They're overwhelmed. They have 9 million emails. They don't want to know about it. Same thing as Friday afternoon. If they're in the office at all in the afternoon, they don't want to see a query letter. No weekends. Best like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Bradley asks, if an agent says no thanks on one of your novels, should you query them with your next one?
It depends. If you get anything that says, I'm really sorry, no thanks, and that's it, then no, don't query them. If they say, no thanks, but try me again, then try them again. They will basically tell you whether to try them again. Of course, you also can be very bold and query them again and say, look, I know you said no thanks in my first, but this book is so much better, and this is why. Would you be willing to take a look? You have nothing to lose by doing that, so you might as well.
Mag says, do not pay for an agent. This, I guess, goes without saying.
Never. No, never pay for an agent. If an agent asks you for money, run the other way. They're not a reputable agent. You don't want to do that. You should not pay for, if an agent said, well, you don't have to pay me, but you have to pay for photocopying and postage. No. Reputable agents don't do that.
But Caroline, what about a reading fee? They need maybe a reading fee.
Reading fee is different. A lot of agents will say, well, there's something wrong with this and I want someone here to read it. And it's like they're handing you to a developmental editor and then you pay for it.
Oh,
But
is
a
that a
reading
thing?
fee,
I was being
yeah.
facetious because I know a lot of scammers
No.
say use reading fees
No, no,
as a
no.
thing to
Reading
just.
fees, no. Straight reading fees, no. If they say, I want you to take it to a developmental editor and they have somebody there for you, then that's a different thing if they're going to do work. But reading fee, forget it. No, 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 no. Don't do that.
And I've got a question here from the Doc and Chef. How important is the number of followers on social media?
I wish I could say not important at all, but a lot of times that's what agents look for. That's part of what they call your platform, which is an odious term. I hate it as much as I hate brand. However, it's easy to get followers on social media using my 5 minutes a day in the morning and 5 minutes a day in the evening plan. You just get on there and tick, 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 follow people and they will follow you back. And that's how you build a following. Does it move books? Nobody knows. I don't think the publishers know. The only thing that has moved books on social media has been TikTok. And the only way it has moved books are if you are writing sci-fi. Romance does really well on TikTok. Sometimes self-help does. Colleen Hoover does really well on TikTok, those kinds of books. But you never know. It's kind of, you never know. You're rolling the dice.
Yeah, that is certainly yeah. Because those sort of romance readers these days they call it spicy romance when it gets
Oh,
a little
right. That's
that
right. That does really well.
they do hugely well. Like because those
Yep.
readers will read like 3 books a week or something. Not
Yep.
to drop some names. I was at a conference last week. Went for dinner with two authors, Lucy Score and E.L. James of 50
Mhm.
Shades, and they write in that space, and they are absolutely rolling in it. I tell you.
I know.
Uh, but yes, but yeah, I think for nonfiction, from what I've heard, that platform becomes all the more important because a lot of readers of novels will pick something up and take a chance on it if it really
Right.
grabs them.
Right.
Whereas who you are as a nonfiction author is a big part of what they read it. To learn about car maintenance from some guy you've never heard of before isn't quite the same as learning about
Right.
car maintenance from the head engineer at NASA or something. Someone
Right.
who feels
Right.
like why you would want to listen to them. Um, Let me see if I could fish out one more question here. I think let's see. Is someone talking about a copyright here?
Oh,
One of the
okay.
things I guess a lot of people are worried about is that once they start sending it out to agents, like, are they going to steal it? This is like that big fear of
Right.
intellectual
Right.
property getting
Okay.
stolen.
If you're sending out to a movie person, then you want to get it registered with the WGA, Writers Guild of America, East or West. Publishing, it actually works against you if you put that little copyright sign, because publishing still considers itself a gentleman's and gentlewoman and gentle person's business. When they see that you've copywritten that copyright signal on your manuscript, it annoys them. I don't know why, but I've been just told that it annoys them. So don't do it. Your proof of that this is yours is in your computer. You have a date on your computer with your file on your manuscript. They can't suddenly come out with something and say that it's theirs. You have proof of it. So no, you do not need a copyright. And that comes when it's published. And I don't know how it works in self-publishing, but I do know if you get a traditional publisher, they take care of that and they take that very seriously. However, I will say with AI now, it's a whole different ballgame. You have to be, and a copyright notice will not help you with AI. I have seen artificial intelligence publish books under a friend of mine's name that she did not write, and it's selling on Amazon. It's the Authors Guild is on this now. They're trying to do something about it, but nobody knows yet what's going to happen with that.
Cool. I think that's sort of us coming to the end of this. Before we leave, I do want to mention again that Caroline is a developmental editor here on Reedsy. Could you let the folks know what sorts of projects you're looking for?
Oh
What sort of
yeah,
thing, really gets you going these
yep.
days?
I do mostly fiction. I don't do genre fiction. So if you're writing sci-fi or, anything that has to do with space or vampires or magic, I'm not the right editor for you. I do commercial fiction. I don't do romance. I do memoir. I really like memoir. Uh, Nonfiction is great. You can try me, because as long as you put up that sample, I will mark it up, and it's a really good way for you to tell if I'd be the right editor for you, or if you'd be the right client for me. And if I don't feel I'm the right editor for you, I always suggest other Reedsy editors that I know who are really good.
Cool. So her link is down in the video description. Just head through to that. You can send Caroline or any one of our editors a request for free. You can get a quote back and a response, even if it is, sorry, I'm booked up for this time, or you may get something a bit more personal.
Right.
So yeah, do. If you're not, sign up to Reedsy. It's absolutely free. We've got loads of good stuff. In the chat now, I've just dropped a whole bunch of resources.
Great.
Everything from our how to write a query letter, our guide to getting published. We have a sort of rival directory to Query Tracker, which is our agents directory. So check out all of that. As a final piece of housekeeping, in 2 weeks' time, we're having another book cover critique where we're inviting you to submit your either self-made book covers or ones that you've had professionally made, and an experienced Reedsy designer who's worked for all of the big 5 publishers. He's going to pull out a few of them, give his opinions in real time, and give you tips for improving them. All good fun.
It's great. It's great.
Before we check out, Caroline, do you have any last thoughts for folks here, maybe at the beginning of their journey, looking to take that step into becoming published authors?
Yeah, you know what? Do not give up. I don't care if you have 800 rejections. You never know what's going to happen. Also, I do want to say, when you do send your manuscript, make sure it looks professional. By professional, I mean you want 1.5 inch margins on the left, inch margins on the right, top, bottom. Use a font that's Times New Roman, 12-point font. No fancy colors, no fancy fonts. Do not include pictures. Some people will show like a sample cover they want. Don't do that. Be very, very professional.
Cool. I've just dropped a link into the chat with our manuscript. Our book manuscript template. It's it's a Word doc that you can download and apply that to your manuscript. It'll make sure everything's got all that thing, double spaced, Times New Roman, all that. Cool. Caroline, thank you so much. I hope we can have you back before long.
Oh yeah, you can't give me away.
well, best of luck. Have a great summer. Hope it doesn't get too warm in New York.
So much, and congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, we're getting married next year, so very exciting.
And thank everybody for being here. Thank everybody for being here.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for staying around, asking such great questions. I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.